Nathan Judah. This is Wolverhampton Wanderers reporter. It is Mr. Liam Keane. Liam, we have come inside because the storm is about to come. It has gone from Jacksonville and it is arriving in Miami. So we've come to the Inter Miami's team store. And by the way, there are some shirts. You've already purchased one.
This is the one I purchased.
For how much? A little bit.
I'm not going to discuss that on camera.
A little bit more expensive than a Wolves shirt, but you've got Messi on the back. You've been wearing it around the apartment and wearing it well.
Thank you.
Very well, sir. Look, we've been to training again today, of course, and we've got some new arrivals.
We do have some new arrivals, yeah. The internationals have returned. So we've got Jose Sá, Nelson Semedo, Pedro Neto for Portugal, and Mr. João Gomes from Brazil. Obviously, all played a lot over the summer. Had a very little break, didn't they, after the Premier League season? They went straight off with their countries, given a little bit of extra time off. Didn't go to Marbella, missed the first half of this USA trip, but they flew in yesterday, which was Sunday. Straight into training this morning, and no let-up as well, straight in, no messing around, into full training, and all looking in pretty good condition.
Yeah, like you say, there's obviously, we went past the gym, there's a lot of players in the gym training, but they were straight out on the field. I think Gary was eager to work with them because obviously these guys are going to be integral to the starting lineup this season, not just the squad, and he wanted to get them on that training pitch and work with them as soon as possible.
Yeah, because we've seen what Gary's doing in terms of the evolution of this Wolves side, talking about formations, flat back fours, obviously he's being slightly adaptive and hybrid and fluid within that as well. But if you're doing this new work and changing the way Wolves are going to play, even if it's small marginal changes, you need to get these players in to show them what you want to do, show them the plan, show them how it's going to work, convince them almost in some ways that it'll work. Not that they'll need much convincing with Gary doing such a good job last season. So that's really important to get them in. As I say, the fact that they've come in, flown in yesterday and actually been straight into training and no let up, as I say, 100% completely involved, is a good sign. We don't think that they'll play a lot on Wednesday against Crystal Palace,
if any
at all. There's probably a good chance they don't, albeit João Gomes was quite heavily involved in the sort of what we think will be the 11 lineup for Palace. And then they've obviously got the Leipzig game here, just over there, on Saturday, which I'd expect all of them to play at least some part in.
Yeah, look, Pedro Neto is the one that I think everybody's talking about. Great to see him back.
You can hear the thunder.
Great to see him back, but of course the big elephant in the room is whether he's going to be a Wolves player at the start of this season on September the 1st or August the 30th, whenever deadline day is. It'll be interesting to see what he does, not just on the pitch, but off it. Speaking to Gary, I'm sure there's going to be some conversations there.
Absolutely. Look, and Wolves are not in a position where they have to sell him. They do want to bring some more additions in, but if they get a good offer, we're looking at 60 million plus, really. It becomes a real conversation for Wolves. And considering his talent, but also considering his injury record, it does become a real decision to make, doesn't it, if you get an offer in and around that region. And regardless of what happens, for Wolves' sake, more importantly, but also for Pedro Neto's sake, they need a decision earlier rather than later, don't they? I think if this drags on till deadline day, it's only going to become more difficult for Wolves to, i.e. replace him or add to the squad, but also just to have a settled squad going into the rest of the season, and particularly with the starts and the fixtures they've got coming up in the Premier League early on. So a quick resolution is going to benefit everyone. The issue is, how often do we see transfers drag on? So that's going to be the biggest concern, I think, probably from Gary's point of view, and potentially losing a player that is, an excellent footballer.
Well, what Wolves have done very well, and we've seen it. They've got signings in early, and I feel like they will know about Pedro Neto, they will know about the situation with him, and there will be contingency plans. Now, those contingency plans, like you just said, will not be selling Pedro Neto on deadline day because they will want players in, won't they? Now, whether they get them in before a potential Pedro Neto sale, that could be very interesting. If you sign 2 or 3 or 1 or 2 forwards, then you've got to think that will be because one star player is probably likely to go. Would you say that?
Yeah, I think so. Particularly if it's in the forward area, of course. And then you look at Wolves have done late business before. Look at last summer. Mateus Nunes leaves really late. Tommy Doyle, Santi Bueno. Bellegarde all come in really late. They try and get Che Adams. They try and get Boulaye Dia. They don't go through. So
they won't want to be in that situation again.
They don't want to be, but if they are, Wolves will be ready to move as well. So it really is going to hinge on him. I think it's unlikely you'll see any movement with other players. There's obviously a lot of interest in Aït-Nouri. It looks unlikely there's going to be big moves there for him this summer. And then obviously Mateus Cunha picked up the injury the night. I think he'd be of interest, but I think it's unlikely at this stage. So Neto's probably the one to keep an eye on in terms of big departures, and then there will be those fringe players around as well that will move on.
Yeah, look, this one we can ask Gary ONeal this afternoon because if you hadn't read our tweets, Gary ONeal is the special guest for the Wolves Poddy this afternoon. So we'll be sitting down with the head coach to have a good chat, and you can send your questions in. We've got a tweet out there, just reply, and we'll ask him the very best. It's a pleasure and an honour for us to speak to him, and there'll be a lot of questions, and I'm sure Pedro Neto will be one of them. In terms of potential replacements for Pedro Neto, do you feel that it would have to be one or two more to come in? And if Pedro Neto stayed, which let's hope that he does, everybody wants Pedro Neto to stay and have a full season hopefully injury-free. Do you feel that there's still one short up top?
If he stays, I think in terms of wide players, they're probably okay, because this is depending on Chiquinho staying, who, of course, on the Express Star website, I've read has said that he wants to stay. He likes the way Gary ONeal's working and dealing with him, which I think is a great start for his potential involvement next season, provided he does stay. And again, there'll be ifs and buts there, depending on what Gary wants and if the club get an offer, etc. Provided he stays and Pedro stays, I think they're probably okay wide players. My biggest question mark is probably striker, because you've got Larson. Hwang's your next option there, isn't he?
Yeah.
Do you need someone else in that department? But as far as we're aware, it's not something that they're really putting a lot of effort into and forcing right now, because they've brought their big money. I know he's not on a permanent deal just yet, but big money striker in, and that's the big position they needed to address. So that would probably be my question mark. But if he does go, I think you need a replacement, because you're relying on Chiquinho, again, relatively young still. Rodrigo Gomez, new to the Premier League and even younger at 21. Sarabia on the right side, Cunha and Hwang, different options. So I think you probably do need to replace him if he does go. But then if he stays, you might just be okay. Now that was loud. We've got to go out there now as well, doesn't it?
Oh, crikey. Well, make this an extended video anyway. Look, I'm sure that Gary ONeal also, with the situation, is in constant dialogue with Matt Hobbs, with Jeff Shee back at home. These are the guys that are going to make the deals happen. And I just wonder, I don't think they're going to sell players if they haven't got players ready to go.
I don't think so. I think Wolves are going to have to be organised, and they are, because look at the scouting structure that has sort of taken place under Matt Hobbs. Is that they have got targets for every position in mind. We look at Jose Sarr. There was question marks of him, understandably previously, and Wolves have got goalkeepers that they like, that they kept an eye on. So they'll be preparing for his departure, regardless of whether it's on the cards or not, because it's the right thing to do. And if they don't, they're not doing their due diligence as a football club. So I'd be surprised if Wolves don't move quickly if and when Pedro Neto does leave. But it's a big if at the moment.
Just one player I want to mention before we leave, and that's Jean-Luc de Bellegarde, who I thought really impressed against Jacksonville in the middle. Came on, and I thought actually he was probably one of the standouts on the evening. And then we saw him for how long?
30 minutes,
about
roughly.
30 minutes. But it'd be interesting to see if he does get a start in Indianapolis, against Crystal Palace. Someone who plagued by injuries last year, suspended, playing out of position. But I wonder if that's someone who will really benefit from maybe having, or Gary ONeal finding the position that he likes the best and maybe having a better running the side.
Yeah, I think position is a really key one. We saw his debut against Liverpool, didn't we? And he looked brilliant, playing in a sort of almost left 10-ish role. He's been played out wide, he's been played as a 9 when Wolves been struggling. Didn't really suit him in any of those games. Against West Ham, he played next to Tommy Doyle in midfield, but he was very much free roaming and going forward and sort of flowing. And he looked, a lot of his skills is picking the ball up from deep and running at players, similar to Mateus Nunes in many ways. And we saw a lot of that against West Ham. I thought he did really well. We've spoken about him previously being a player that has to step up this season, because he's had a year in the Premier League. He's had a bit of time to get used to it. He's unlucky with injuries and unlucky with playing out position. But if he can find a home in the team, a starting home, whether that's whether he's on start every game, which he probably won't, particularly when the season starts, or can find a position that really suits him when he does come on. You see the best of him, you force your way into the team, then you've got to shine, you've got to take that opportunity. But he took it against West Ham. If I had to hedge my bet, he probably starts against Palace. And again, that's another big opportunity for him. And I think if he does well, he could be one that sort of creeps up on us as a potential starter.
We needed a sleep last night. Finally, we got more than 3 or 4 hours. We got.
Which does not happen very often, does it?
No, it's not. Just because, by the way, not because we've been on it, because we've been flying up across the rest of Florida, and we were on an early flight again tomorrow. We're going to Baltimore. We'll be at the Baltimore Orioles versus Toronto Blue Jays game tomorrow night, and then we'll be at Annapolis for Crystal Palace against Wolverhampton Wanderers. 8 p.m. kickoff local time. That is 1 a.m. UK time, which actually will ironically be earlier if they start on time than what you watch them against West Ham United. So we will be there. We're doing a video, of course, from Baltimore, and then from the game itself the next day. For the rest of us, make sure you log in and check the Wolves Poddy, because we've got a very special guest.
Very special.
We'll see you soon.